All right, let's get started here. Just gonna this up. Thank you, Lieutenant Bain, for inviting me over to come and speak. I'm excited to speak to the officers of the North Central Commission Officer Association. Um, with that said, Katie, I'm again thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to the next 30 minutes here that I can spend and promoting and giving some financial education to the officers here.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. I'd like to introduce Robert Duncan. He is a distinguished financial educator and retirement income specialist. He graduated from He graduated from UC San Diego with a degree in neuroscience. He started working for his father, David, who was a top-rated lecturer and workshop presenter at universities, CPA and law firms, and other professional career offices. He started working in the business after experiencing firsthand the loss of a loved one and the serious emotional, spiritual, and financial impact that follows. For value, time, and effort, Robert received many awards after presenting to the doctors, nurses, and other medical officers of the U.S. Public Health Service. A former USPHS military dependent, Robert has a deep respect and appreciation for those who serve. He's a lifetime student, he's a certified financial planner who studied at UCLA, and a member of the Financial Service Network, an elite organization consisting of the nation's best attorneys, CPAs, and financial advisors. With that being said, I will turn it over to you, Robert.
Thank you, Lieutenant Bain. Thank you for that introduction. First things first today, I catered lunch. So everyone who's in the chat here, if you could, we'll just make sure everyone's awake. If you could just comment in the chat, what is your favorite food? Sometimes it's breakfast, sometimes it's lunch, but if your favorite food item, just to get this going. But yeah, if this was in person, I'd gladly would have brought you guys some lunch. I know it's the lunch hour over there. Over here, it's 9:30 a.m. I'm in San Diego. Roast beef. All right. So we'll get going here. So a little bit, just a quick note. This is everything that we're going to be talking about today is educational in nature. It's not going to be specific financial advice, legal or tax advice. If you determine that you need that, just give me a call and we can get you what you need specific to you. Now, today we're going to be talking about the best kept financial secrets. And I'd like to always start that off with, the United States Public Health Service. If when you'd first commissioned, if you think back when you met with your friends and family, and you told them you worked in the USPHS, you probably got a look on their face like this. What's that? And actually, in fact, I was just at a national park 3 weeks ago, and I was showing my ID card, and when the attendant had looked at it, he said, what's the USPHS? This is the park ranger. He hadn't heard of it. And obviously now things have been changing with the pandemic response, but there have been many times where I pull up to a national park and we should have free entry, and they say, well, I've never heard of the United States Public Health Service. But I would argue that of all the military branches, it's actually one of the best kept secrets. So just a quick little background on me when I'm not doing financial planning. I am climbing rocks. That's my passion. So I was in Yosemite 3 weeks ago. I like to take risks, but you won't see me climbing big things without a rope. So I like to take calculated, safe risks. This was just a couple days ago. I was having fun at the climbing gym, and I bought a movie quality Spider-Man suit. So like to have some fun. So like I said, PHS has been on the front line of the COVID-19 response, and I know a lot of officers couldn't make it, so they're watching the recording of this because they're probably being deployed right now. So we definitely have been gaining a lot of awareness, and I'd say of the 7 military branches, the United States Public Health Service is the best kept secret Why? Because we get all of, and I have a bad habit of saying we. I'm not an officer, but I am a dependent. My mother is is a is in the PHS. She's been for 13 years, so you might catch me saying that. But going on, so I would argue that the PHS is the best kept secret of all the branches because we get all of the benefits that an active duty military officer gets. We get to serve our country, but we have more control over in terms of deployment. And of course, these are the benefits of why officers join, and we all know that. The big idea that we're going to be talking about today is how we help United States public health officers increase cash flow in their retirement by 50% or more without them having to do any more work. So I have a question for everyone today. And I like to start it off with this. And if you would come off mute and just answer it, or you can put it in the chat, I'd appreciate it. If you had the option where you could receive $1 million today in cash, or I would give you a penny every single day for 30 days and double it. So on the first day, you get 1 penny, on the second, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and so on. Just comment in the chat, or feel free to come off mute and let me know which one would you choose: $1 million cash or a penny a day, and we're going to double it every day for 30 days.
We have one individual here in the conference room that says double with the penny.
Double with a penny.
I would like
Okay, that's a pretty wise decision. Has he heard my talk before? So this guy right here. What was that?
It's a simple math equation.
There you go. You probably know who this guy is right here. He said compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world, and he who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. So again, yeah, it's a simple math equation. And if you chose the penny, you'd probably be surprised to know that at the end of the 30 days, you would have $5.3 million in your account. Now, if we took that same idea, and when it comes to compound interest, what we found is that tax-free compounding is the best model. So if we were compounding that tax-free, it would be 5.3 million. But if we took that same doubling every day, and at the end of the day, I instituted a 30% tax, and let's just call that a capital gains tax. So I tax the doubling by 30% every day. Well, then at the end of the 30 days, you'd probably be shocked to see you'd only have about $50,000 in the account. So from 5.3 million down to 50,000, and you can see the devastating effects that taxes could have on your ability to compound and grow your wealth. Now, another thing that's interesting here is that if we take a look at right here, in the last 10 or even 5 days, on the 25th day, we've got $167,000 in the account. And it's really not until those last 3 days, on the 28th day, we have 1.3 million, that we really start getting ahead here than the original offer of just taking the $1 million in cash. So compound interest is certainly a delayed gratification play, but you'll see that in those last years is where we really make that growth. And imagine if we could just go 5 more days after this at 5.3 million. What would that number be? It'd be pretty large. So I'd like everyone to do a calculation with me now today. And so pull out a piece of paper, and this is something called, or you could do it on your phone, or if you're good at math, you can do it in your head. And this is something called the 300 rule. And this is not about the Spartan and Persian conflict or the movie 300, but the 300 rule it helps us figure out the amount of passive income that we need in retirement. So the 300 rule. So let's take the passive income you'd like per month. We're going to multiply that number by 300, subtract your current assets from that, and the number you arrive at is called critical capital mass. And critical capital mass is the number in the bank that you have to have in order for it to be compounding at market rates of return to generate the passive income that you want. So I made this easy, and I actually did a calculation for a typical PHS officer. So let's go ahead and put that in. So let's say an officer wants $10,000 per month. Well, we're going to subtract. There's a twist for PHS officers. Is let's subtract that monthly retirement pay. In this case, let's say it's $4,800. So that's $5,200 of a shortfall that we need. And we're going to multiply the 5,200 by 300. So 5,200 times 300 is $1.56 million. We subtract how much we've currently saved from that. So let's assume the officer has saved $660,000. So that's a $900,000 critical capital mass. So we need $900,000 is the difference between where we're at now and being financially free and having $10,000 per month passively. That's going to last as long as we live, as long as our spouse lives, and we'll still have the principal remaining to go to our beneficiaries. So that number you arrive at is your critical mass. Again, that's the number to last as long as you live and as long as your spouse or partner lives. So what are 9 out of 10 officers doing to get there? Well, what we find is that they're contributing to the thrift savings plan. They're working towards their 20-year mark when they hit retirement. They decide if they want to stay in the at that point, they decide if they want to stay in the PHS or work in the private sector. Many are considering, what state should I move to? There are 11 tax-free states. They file a claim for disability when they separate. Most assume that in retirement, they're going to spend less. And the average officer, yet with all these things, we still find that the average officer is going to experience a 50% gap in retirement income when they separate from service. So this is the problem here. So if I'm sure many of you are familiar with this calculator, if you go to militarykpay.defense.gov, you can actually pull this up. And if you are on whether you're on the high 3, the high 36 retirement, or if you're on the blended retirement system, you can enter that in, you can enter in your rank, and this will calculate what your pension is going to look like. But the one thing that it's missing, and when I did this, is that this blue bar represents the base pay. Does anyone have an idea what the green bars might represent? It's something that you get as active duty.
BAH?
BAH, you nailed it. So BAH, and that's a tax-free benefit that civilians do not get working in their job. And so, one thing that this calculator is missing is that your BAH, when we hit retirement, that's going to stop. So the question is, how do you plan to replace that income gap between your base pay and the BAH when you retire? Now, another thing that's interesting about this calculator, and I'm a bit of a finance geek, so I just find this stuff really interesting, is that if you come down here, it'll say your total retirement benefit is $2.23 million in this case. But over on the right, there's something here called present value. And it says $1.3 million. And so what is present value? Well, present value is if you were going to sell me the income rights to your retirement pension, and in this case, it could be 25, it could be 35 years of income. If you were to sell that to me today, that's called present value. So the present value of those future payments in the future, adjusted for inflation, is actually $1.3 million calculated for this officer here. So that's one of the best kept secrets, is that many officers don't know that, but the value of you deciding to join, you already made a great financial decision by commissioning as an officer in the PHS. In fact, it's worth $1.3 million. So who wants to be a millionaire? You're already there, in the sense that if you stick for your 20 years, that's an enormous benefit. The other thing is that, when I was talking about critical capital mass, that's approximately the amount of money that should be set aside to pay for officers' retirement. But we'll not get too far into that. But we said that 900,000 is the gap. And so how are we planning to replace that? Well, if as we're building that asset of 900,000, there's three risks that we have to look out for. Number one is market risk. And if you've been in the market, you just witnessed that risk with our most recent flash crash last March. But we know that the market is a game of ups and downs, and it's not just going to be happening. We should expect for the market to have some turbulence. I mean, if we look back, you'll look back on this photo here on the left. This was the Wall Street crash in 1929, and during the Great Depression. And this individual here, you can see he says $100 will buy this car. You must have cash. I lost all of my money on the stock market. So the last three experiences I'd say that were significant was 34% last April. We had 2008. If anyone remembers 2008, the S&P 500 was down 57% over 1 year. And then even before then, we had the technology crash, tech bubble of the early 2000 to 2003. That was 3 years of the market being down, and so on and so forth. And here we have the crash in 1987. So that's the market risk. And what our approach to finance is a little bit different. There was a study done by David Blanchett, who's he's a PhD in financial services. He teaches at the American College. He also holds his CFA and CFP designations. A very, very competent financial educator and researcher. And he did a study of 2 million retirement plans in America. And what he found of those 2 million retirement plans was that the ones that were successful, 75% of the outcome was determined by how much they were saving, and only 25% was determined by where they invested it. So in other words, 75% of your retirement outcome is determined by savings rate, whereas only a quarter really matters where you invest it, whether it's stocks, which mutual fund to pick, which blended portfolio, which fund, the G fund, the I fund, the S fund, the C fund. And so what really determined the outcome was savings. So the second risk is tax risk. Now, with our country's debt climbing to uncontrollable levels, right now we're at $28.8 trillion. Are you prepared to lose perhaps 50 to 60% of your retirement income in the form of taxes? And now on taxes, I'd like to share this graph here because this shows historically that we are in the lowest tax rates we've been in the past 100 years. Now, you'll see back in over here that most people are shocked when I show them this, that our highest marginal tax rate we've had in America was 94%. 94%. That was in World War II. And back then, Ronald Reagan, before he became president, he was a movie star. And so he would only film 2 movies per year. And the reason being because if he filmed anything more than 2 movies per year, he was paying 94 cents of every dollar to the federal government. And does anyone have an idea where the other 6% was going? It was going to the state of California. So you can see here that his our national debt was the highest back then as well. So as a country, we were spending money like crazy to try and win the war. And it was a patriotic duty to go out and buy war bonds. And you'll see that our tax rates were the highest they had ever been. And as we paid down our national debt, you'll see that our tax rates actually went down as well. It wasn't until the turn of the century that as our debt started spiraling out of control again, our spending became irresponsible. And, our largest ticket budget items, which are very expensive, have been here. And this is where tax rates have stayed. So looking at this graph, where do you think that taxes are going to go? If I could have anyone chat in or unmute, where do you think taxes are going? Through the roof. Yeah. We're in agreement there. So, so that's another risk that's on the table, and we want to take that off the table for you. And the last risk is capital risk. So that's the risk of not having enough money, frankly, just not having enough money or being able to save enough in order to contribute towards achieving the retirement success that we would like. And so capital risk, what does that look like in America? Vanguard did a study in 2019, how America saves. And of all of the Vanguard 401ks, the average balance for an American age 65 was $192,000. It was $192,000. And I was kind of curious about this, and I said, okay, well, let's see how are the officers doing compared to civilian Americans? Well, officers have them beat by about double. The average TSP balance of 22 years of contributions is 375,000. But remember, we said that our number we had to hit was 900,000 to cover that gap. So coming back to that 300 rule, if we want $5,200 extra above our retirement pay, and we subtract the 374,000, we're still short 1.1 million in this case. So that's something to consider there. And if we did 374,000 and we divided that by the 300 rule, that would only give us about $1,250 per month. And I don't know about you, but $1,250 per month is not enough for me to retire on. I probably could, but I have to move to another country. So I'd like officers to think right now, when is your retirement date? And if you feel comfortable, you could chat it in right now, or you could come off mute. But is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 20 years from now? And what have you done so far to maintain your current lifestyle when you retire? And in this case, we have to build an asset of 1.1, almost $1.2 million. So what's the best kept financial secret? If the PHS is the best kept secret in terms of which branch to join, I was curious and this is very fascinating. You can go to Google Trends, it's trends.google.com, and you can see the interest over time of individuals on Google. And so you plug in retirement from 2004, you can see it fluctuates, and it really helps when you add another term in there. So when I plugged in taxes, you'll see that the interest in taxes is also cyclical. For some magic reason, around April 15th every year, there seems to be a spike. If anyone could tell me why, I'd appreciate it. And then I plugged in those two terms. I was wondering who's Googling tax-free retirement, and it's down here, this yellow bar. I'm not sure if you guys can even see it, but it's less than 1%. And then if we compare that to something like YouTube, how many people are Googling YouTube? It's got them all beat. So everyone's on YouTube and watching videos, which is more entertaining than retirement taxes or even tax-free retirement. But I would argue that tax-free retirement is the best kept financial secret. And that's what we put in place for our clients, our officers who have become clients. Because if we're thinking about the ideal retirement plan, what would we want it to have? So these are some of those benefits. And I'm going to go through this quickly. But would we want it to be deductible? Yes. Would we want tax deferred growth? Yes. How about tax-free income? Well, yes, we like that. And another thing that does that is, for example, BAH. So of those three risks, we just eliminated tax rate risk. Excuse me. We would want a market-driven rate of return. How about safety? In the event of a market crash, that we want our money protected. BAH does that as well. So if the market is crashing, our BAH is still going to be paying out. The only thing it might depend on is what zip code we're in and how many dependents we have. Liquidity And liquidity is important. Cash in the event of death or illness. Yes, that's important. And what about matching funds? What if there was a retirement plan that could match 3-to-1? For every dollar you put in, it would match you $3. Well, that would cover that capital risk of not having enough money. So for a select group of officers who can afford to do so, we have this plan. The only thing we can't offer is the deductibility, and that's called the Duncan 5-year. It's a 5-year plan. So this is a case study we did for an active duty captain. And this captain, we were looking at, I'm just going to pull out my pen here. So let's see if this works. We were looking at the options of where we could place our money to build that $900,000 asset. So over here on the right, this represents a $164,000 investment. And on the right here, you'll see this is a tax deferred investment. So the tax deferred investment, what does that mean? Well, that means that we're paying taxes later, or tax postponed. So that's something like a qualified plan like the TSP. If we have a spouse or partner as a civilian, that could be a 401k or a 403b, or many of us are familiar with an IRA. That would produce, at a growth rate of 6%, $519,000 of income. How about an after-tax investment? After-tax investment, what does that mean? That would mean something like a Roth or a brokerage account. And in this situation, we're losing the value of the deduction, and it's actually a little bit less than if we just did it in a tax-deferred investment. So this would get us at $448,000 in income. What about a tax advantage investment? What does that mean? That means that the income is going to be tax-free. We were able to match the tax deferred in this case by just about match it. But the other benefit we were able to provide was $300,000 to the beneficiaries in the form of what's called a death benefit that goes to the beneficiaries through a wealth replacement trust. Now, the last one over here, though, is what I mentioned with a 3-to-1 match. So if we were able to just add 3 times the amount of money that was being saved for you on behalf of your retirement, and we had a bank come in and do that, you'll see that the income, the officer didn't have to do any more work, but we got $953,000 of income, and almost $667,000 after he's pulled out that income is going to go to his family tax-free. So that's what we did for this officer and what we're putting in place for them. And bear with me. I know it probably sounds like it's too good to be true right now. And that's how everyone feels about it. But the fact is that it's happening. We're doing it, and we're making it work for officers. And in just a minute, I'll show you a couple testimonials we have. But what did we accomplish here? We got rid of the 15 years of funding. We know that BAH is going to shut off. We could replace things like SGLI and make the decision for the survivor benefit plan a lot easier, which is often a tough decision to make. But on the right side, we condensed all the savings to 5 years. We covered 20 years of his BAH income. So we've replaced it. We've replaced and enhanced his SGLI. There's going to be over $1 million that's going to be paid out tax-free to this officer and his family. We've lowered his market risk, tax risk, and the capital risk. So retirement is a process, and the sequence matters. For example, we have some clients, if we're getting near to retirement, it's important to take care of some things, for example, with a disability claim through the VA. And I'm coming to the end of my presentation here, just wrapping up, but I wanted to put up these examples. This is a couple of the clients we've helped. You can feel free to take a picture of this, screenshot this. I know the text is kind of small, but these are this is a couple testimonials from officers we helped. Right here in the middle, this is she's a retired commander. Her name's Gina. And we worked with her over 3 months. It was a we did the due diligence, and we put in a place a 10-year succession plan for her. And what she wanted was to protect the value of her pension in retirement and also reduce her taxes. So we did that. And replace her BAH was the other big one. So we were able to do that for her. She's going to get 25 years of payments. She has long-term care protection, 100% coverage of her pension if, God forbid, anything happened to her. And then she also went on further after that to file a VA disability claim. We have a contact that helps our officers with that, and she was able to get an approval, and she receives tax-free income from that as well. So, what I'd like to open it up now is for questions in just a minute here, but I'm extending an opportunity to those who are interested or willing and able. Is that you can scan right here. You'll have my contact information. You can book a call. We're pretty selective and choosy with who we work with, and I'm blessed to say that we're very busy. But on this call, what we would do is just spend 20 minutes. There's nothing to buy, but we would calculate your retirement income and see if there's a mutual fit. So you can shoot me an email, or you can scan this right here, just like you go to the restaurants, and go ahead and just scan that. I think I have the link that I could post in the chat, but it would probably be easier if you just scan this right here, or go to www.duncanfundingpartners.com/book a call. Happy to chat with you for 20 minutes and show you how we've helped other PHS officers who might be in the same boat to replace their BAH income, and just kind of start there. But again, we're pretty busy, and my assistant will be following up on that. If you click this, it shows my calendar. There might be some double bookings. I have a booked calendar, but my assistant is so we might have to move you around. Even though it looks like my calendar is open, but we'll have to move it around because this is kind of just an open calendar link. But again, I thank you guys for inviting me here this morning, afternoon, and I'd like to open up for a couple questions. I'm going to leave this page open so that you guys can scan it, or you can just get my contact and shoot me a message. So thank you again, Lieutenant Bain, for inviting me this morning. I appreciate it. I always like the opportunity to give back and speak with officers, and I will open it up for questions now if anyone has any. And those online, you can just go ahead and chat them in or come off mute, and happy to answer any questions.
Hello, this is Captain Arroyo. Thank you for this presentation today. It's very interesting. The too good to be true statement is pretty prescient.
Absolutely.
My questions are not real technical. What devices are you using in order to generate these incomes, and what fees are the officers looking to pay in order to become part of this program?
Yeah, that's a good question. So everyone's situation is going to be a little bit unique and different. This particular program that offers the 3-to-1 match is it's a proprietary program called Kaizen, it's also called the 5-year retirement. In terms of fees, the fees will range between 1% and 44 basis points over the life of the contract. And so in some cases, I when I'm talking to officers about fees or going over them, it's important to kind of add that comparison. Well, I had one officer say, okay, 1% fee, but I pay less than that right now. But we fail to remember that, okay, when we pull out the income, when it's time to retire, the tax rate might be, for example, 22%. So that's a 22% fee. Ed Slott, he's a CPA and speaker, nationally recognized. He said that Americans don't know that the biggest fee that they're going to pay in retirement is not just the investment fee, but actually the tax fee. If we can eliminate that, I think our clients are better served than trying to find a 30% rate of return in the market, which often takes more risk. If we can get you slow and steady growth, but eliminate the taxes, I think we can have a bit more of a predictable outcome there. But if you want to really get into the nitty gritty, I'm happy to get on a 20-minute call and discuss that.
Thank you.
Sure. One other thing is that with regards to too good to be true, me personally, I even thought it was too good to be true. And it wasn't until so what we did is everything we have is we instituted for ourselves. And so my mother, being a PHS officer, we went ahead and did this 5-year plan for her 5 years ago. So one thing that's been really powerful, besides bringing other PHS officers who are actively enrolled in this right now, is that we also share the statements, the annual statements and returns, to kind of show and just have that transparency that, hey, okay, we understand that this is something you haven't heard about, and it takes a lot of education and due diligence. Like I said, for this other captain, we spent 3 months working on this to really get it in place. So we want to make sure everyone's comfortable. And again, the purpose of today's call is to kind of just show you guys that there's an alternate thing going on here, just like how you guys signed up for PHS that's going on, and just want to make you aware of it, that there are other options than kind of following the status quo and whatever else is doing. So are there any other questions for
Rob,
me
can
today?
you talk about the money supply? This is David Duncan. I work with Rob. Rob's a brilliant young man, and he's added a lot of practice to us. And just this recent money supply with the new funding of the infrastructure. Can you try to bring that up a little?
Yeah. Well, as you guys might know, over the past year, we've had over $6 trillion of stimulus added to our economy. And one thing, I think everyone's gotten a chance to see this already. So I'm gonna see if this lets me come out. But the money supply since in the year 2020 to 2021 has been increasing by 22% every single year. I'm sorry, every single month is the amount of dollars that have been added to our money supply. In other words, the amount of dollars that have been printed. I think that 40% of the dollars right now that are in circulation were printed in the past 16 months. So right now we're looking at, by keeping money kind of there, the big concern is that there's also another hidden and silent tax, and that's inflation. So we want to make sure that we're at least keeping pace with inflation and doing something to stay ahead of that.
So, yeah.
Any other comments there?
For example, I had a larger client who had a lot of money in a fund, and because the money supply has increased 20% just this year, his money has actually decreased. So whatever money you have in your account, just take a 20% drop. And I am just appalled by that we've gotten into a situation where we've lent out too much money. And so that's why I would urge you to look at the 3-to-1 match. And
yeah, so for everyone on the call, this is my dad, David Duncan. I don't know why it says my name when you joined in, but this is my father, David Duncan. I work with him. and
Oh,
so
thank
he's
you. Yeah.
part of the team. And what I brought up here is you might have seen this. You can actually go on yourself. Just go to usdebtclock.org, and this is really fascinating. It shows our U.S. national debt, and it's compounding at interest actually by the second. So you can see here on the left, our national debt is $28.9 trillion. Our federal spending this year was 6.8 trillion, and our total tax revenue was $4 trillion. So you can see we're operating at a deficit. We have 2.7 trillion is the deficit. And there's a gentleman by the name of David Walker. And David Walker was he was the U.S. Comptroller General of the Congressional Budget Office from 1998 to 2008. And in layman's terms, that guy, he's basically America's CPA. And what he said was that this number is going to keep growing and spiraling until it hits this magic number of $50 trillion, at which point at 50 trillion, our tax revenue today won't even equal the interest on this debt. So at that rate, tax rates will have to go up. It's just a math problem. It's the problem of taxes is not if you're on the left or if you're on the right, it's not a political problem. It's a math problem. And if we look at other budget items like Medicare and Medicaid is 1.2 trillion. Social Security, we spent 1 trillion this year. Defense spending 716,000. What's interesting though is that these funds are actually unfunded liabilities, meaning we still have to pay out these benefits for many, many years. And so if we come down to the bottom here, you'll see the Social Security liability is actually $21 trillion. So in order to pay that off now, in other words, to pay off everyone's Social Security liability, it would cost 21 trillion. The Medicare liability is 33 trillion. And the total US unfunded liabilities is 160 trillion, which is about 6 times our entire GDP. So if it's it's actually 8 times our GDP. But anyway, you can come on here and go to usdebtclock.org and see the numbers for yourself and play with it. You can even fast forward at the current rates and look at, the budget showdown in 2025 is going to be, that's when we're going to be at 47 trillion. So you can make yourself aware of this. And this is one of the things that, we're really concerned about. And for our clients, of course, I can't be more invested in your retirement than yourself. But if there's something you want to do about this before it's too late, we can try and do some tax planning now to make sure that you pay less. We had one client, he's got $1.2 million in his TSP. The question is, how do I get that money out without paying a huge amount of tax? Well, is it better to do it now or is it better to do it later? Right. So, so this is the debt clock. But anyway, I think we're gonna cap it off there. There's gonna be a recording available of this, so if you'd like a recording, just reach out to me, and I will have my assistant Rose get that over to you guys. And again, I appreciate y'all for inviting me out to this morning, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
We did have one additional question. We had one additional minute.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go for it.
An officer was wondering, how many PHS officers have you worked with?
So currently I have about 30 PHS officer clients. What I do, the majority of my time is working with my father. We work in the high net worth space. So this is, I don't spend all of my time working with PHS officers. We're working typically with families that have large tax bills or state tax problems. But what I recognized was that some of the strategies that we were doing for those high net worth were pretty easily feasible and transitory to PHS officers who are earning good income and already have a interesting, an interesting play there is they're already getting tax-free income in the form of BAH. So they understand the value of tax-free money. You're saving 22. It's actually 22% more every year. So yeah, I'm working currently with 30 officers. I have a goal of bringing awareness to 1,000 officers, that they would know about this. And you'll probably see me at the COA symposium. I've spoken there before, so I'll be there in Phoenix this May. And but we're looking to grow and expand in that area. But yeah, it's I enjoy working with the officers and really just and setting them up for the ones that want to do so. We can really do a lot. And yeah, so that's that's my experience with PHS officers. And again, I'm no longer a dependent. I'm too old, I guess, but part of why I know and understand PHS so well is because my mom has been in for 13 years. She's in the FDA, and so I've gotten to network and know a lot of her contacts and coworkers, and understand the pains and challenges. And some officers love talking about their TSP every single day, or figuring out what other officers are doing. And what's great is that once we get this going and other officers know about it, the referrals are very nice as well. It's a tight knit community. There's a lot of respect, and I know a lot of officers are being deployed right now, and they're working. They just have a suitcase ready for when they get the call. So it's important to have a financial plan in place that it's going to be there for you while you're working these intense hours or being on deployment. So yeah, so that's it. So we enjoy working with PHS.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, you guys have a great rest of your day, and hope to hear from you guys. Take care.
Appreciate it. Have a good, wonderful day.
Okay. Bye-bye.